Thank you, listeners, for joining us. It is Tuesday, and that means the day we catch up with the city of Elko and find out about local news from our city vice mayor. Mandy Simons is joining us. I'm going to switch your microphone around. There we go. I needed to adjust that for you.
Nope, no problem.
Mandy, it's always a pleasure to sit across from you. And we know last week's agenda was got caught up on a few things, and you guys are right back at it as now we're into August.
Exactly. We had a very short kind of lull, but it was not very long-lived. So we had a full meeting last Tuesday.
So obviously we can kind of dive right into some of the most important issues. I mean, and there were some, including an update on the Elko Inn at 8th and Idaho Street. And people do get frustrated with the situation there. There are a lot of code violations, criminal activity. It's a hotel property or motel property that's owned by an out-of-state owner, Mandy, and people just don't always understand that there's a process that goes with this.
Right. So every time this comes up, citizens that own businesses or live in that vicinity come in and share their stories, and they're really horrible. I mean, they're awful stories about the things that people that are kind of squatting there, I guess, come to their properties for water. They try to break in. Their clients are scared to come to their businesses and visit their businesses. It's really awful. And I guess unfortunately, and fortunately, I mean, it does protect the rights of individuals, but there is a process. We cannot just go in and do whatever we want with somebody else's property, which is good, right? We don't want the local government or any government coming in and telling us what we can do with our property. But in cases such as these, where the owners are not taking care of their property and where there's criminal activity associated with it, there is a process, a legal process that the city can go through. And we have put that in motion. We've started a public nuisance investigation. And we're just trying to put together everything that we have so that we can begin this process. We would love it if the owner would step up and, help us get this resolved. But, we can draw the process out, I guess, as far as it needs to go. So we'll just see what happens. There are people living there. It's not a habitable building. There shouldn't be anybody there, and yet there is. There was a lot of trash, which has somewhat been cleaned up, but the people there are still, just participating in all kinds of criminal activity. And so it's an eyesore, and it's a public safety problem. And so we're just taking the steps that we need to try to improve it.
We understand that, for example, there's no water service to the building?
Yeah, the water service was at one time cut off. I'm assuming it still is. And so, and that's why I say there's not supposed to be anybody living there. They can't rent it out if there's no water.
Because they can't use the bathrooms?
Right.
There's no potable water.
Yeah. And so that's why they're trying to steal water from the neighbors. And it's just a bad situation. And it's just interesting because if you spend, a lot of money buying a property, and it's just going to, it's not making, the goal was to make it low-income housing. But at this point, it's not making them any money. It's going to end up costing them a lot of money in legal fees and such. I am not understanding, I guess, but they are out of state and are not super responsive to us when we try to reach out to them.
The good news is that our city attorney's office is working diligently on this, Mandy. I mean, they have been for several months, along with code enforcement, along with law enforcement. What we heard at the meeting is that it's taking an inordinate amount of time, though, of law enforcement resources, and that takes away from other needs.
Absolutely. And I had the chief of police just try to explain a little bit. People are like, hey, I've reported this crime. It's that dude over there. Why are you not arresting them? And there have been so many laws recently that have really tied the hands of law enforcement. There's very specific circumstances in which they can arrest somebody. And even then, a lot of times, the officer will go to complete the paperwork and that person has to be released before they're even done. And so it's not that they're not trying, and it's not that they're not being responsive, but there have been so many laws passed by our state legislature in the recent years that have made it very, very hard for them to do their jobs. Unfortunately, something egregious has to happen before we can see any results, and that's not really fair to anybody, but that's where we're at. And so they are responding, and I think that a lot of the people who live down there have gotten quite frustrated. Like, I've reported it, and I've just stopped reporting some of these incidents. And something that they talked about, both our attorney and our police chief talked about at the meeting, is that please, even if it's just to go online and file an online report, the more evidence we have, the better. Numbers matter. Report everything that happens. If you own a business, you own any kind of property, you live down, and you've had, anything happen, any illegal activity, people coming onto your property, illegal theft, whatever, please report that. And it's got to get tiring for these people, and it's got to feel like it's falling on deaf ears because the process is so long, but it will matter in the end. And so that's what we're urging people down there to do. And it's true, if we could have the whole shift of police down at that one building, which we've had before, we have everybody that's on duty at that time down at one location, well, then what about the rest of the city? And it's just hard. It's, we don't have endless police officers, nor does any city. We have to follow the laws. We have to follow the legal process, and it's frustrating for those that are involved and that are affected every day by this eyesore.
Elko City Vice Mayor Councilwoman Mandy Simons, again, just the latest update. And I know it doesn't seem like much of an update because we all want action, but a very good explanation, again, about the process. But the wheels are in motion, however slow they may move. It is important, the reason to file those reports, as you said, because recently they made a couple of high-profile arrests of people who were squatting on the property, and they found a bunch of what appeared to be stolen items. There were cell phones and laptops and other valuables in quantities, but because they didn't have reports, they couldn't prove that those were stolen items.
Yeah, it's super important, and it seems like a waste of your time. I think at some point it's got to feel like, who cares? But it's a big deal. And so if if something's already happened, if you notice something's happened, obviously if somebody's like on your property committing a crime, go ahead and call the police. But if you see somebody stealing something and they run off and you're like, they're gone, and all you want to do is go online and file a report, go ahead and do that. But at least do that. Something needs to be reported. It's really important for anybody to get prosecuted. And these people, we all need to be held accountable for our actions. And so the problem's never going to go away if we don't have something to substantiate these claims.
All right. So that's the best we can do right now. elkocity.com. You can find the police website embedded there. It's super easy. We've done these reports before online, Mandy, and it doesn't take much time, as you said, and it does matters. So, but obviously, as you said, if something is happening immediately, call 911, get as much information as possible.
I know. As I was saying that, I'm not trying to discourage people from calling the police or calling 911, but sometimes
these are crime reports.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like maybe it's already happened or you don't need police there right now. And in that case, please know you can go online and file one of these reports.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you can include license plate numbers. There are a lot of ways that you can help because there is surveillance going on because they have made warrant arrest of known felons.
Right.
They just need to know that these people are coming and going. So
yeah,
it
absolutely.
Helps. All right.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks for the update there. Again, the process is in motion. It could end up in a condemnation. We don't know what the city would do or if the out-of-town owners end up relinquishing the property. It's just all
all of those things are kind of down the road, and
I
think it depends on how much cooperation we get from the owners.
Talking with our councilwoman and vice mayor Mandy about some of the outstanding agenda items. Probably the other thing we could really dive into, I think people were surprised about the Anthem damages, right?
Yeah. So Anthem, is one of the companies that has been providing us with better internet service, for which the whole community is grateful. No matter what company you've got it through, we're grateful for that. And one of their subcontractors was kind of digging in a different way than they normally dig to do this. I'm not quite understanding why they were digging so deep and how they were digging and things, but it caused damage. And so in the contract, it basically says, hey, if you need to call before you dig. We've all heard that before, and they weren't doing that, and they were causing damage, and so those damages need to be reimbursed to the city. And so I think what's happening is Anthem is trying to get their insurance who covers their subcontractors, or they're trying to work something out so that they can reimburse the city, but it hadn't been done yet. And so Anthem came in front of us and kind of explained what was going on, explained that they're filing, oh wow, that makes a difference, explained that they are filing their claims. We gave them a 30-day extension, and so we just need to be reimbursed for the taxpayer money that was caused by their contractors. And I guess that since these incidents, the city has been getting a lot more calls to come out and mark, don't dig here, you can dig here. And so things have gotten better, but the damages that were done and that we had to go and repair obviously need to be reimbursed. The citizens shouldn't have to pay for that. So.
Yeah, it was pretty significant. According to the council agenda, there was over $200,000 in damages accrued.
Yeah, and that was a shocking thing. I've said this before, but when I got on the council, I had no idea it was so expensive. 1 linear foot of street is so expensive. So anytime you have to repair that or dig that or pave a new street or make a new street, any of that is so expensive. Just that's the way the materials go. And so we went and we repaired those things and we fixed the damage that was done, and now we just are trying to recoup that money.
All right, so that'll be an ongoing issue too, as you said, a 30-day extension. And to Anthem's credit, they're very concerned. They were at the meeting. They presented their claim, as you said, that they've been working with their insurance company, and I guess the contractor's been working with insurance, and therefore the holdup. So.
Yeah. Sometimes insurance and just life in general does not move like you would, and in government. Government, usually anything we do moves at a snail's pace. So they just came and they let us know, hey, we're on this. Truly, we're hoping that it will be resolved in just a few weeks.
Can you imagine if the government was in charge of running to the store and getting bread and milk and groceries? We'd all starve.
Yeah, it might not work out. Yes, there's a few hoops that it seems like we have to jump through for everything, and I think that's what Anthem is experiencing. But they have been responsive, and they have shown an interest in wanting to be a good partner in the community. So we are waiting on that.
So Mandy, are there things on the agenda that really jumped out for you that you want to make sure that we cover today?
Well, something that I wanted to make sure everybody knew is once a year we do something called National Night Out. And that is this evening. It begins at 5 until they
Till the hot dogs and hamburgers are gone, I think.
Yeah, but if you want free hot dogs, free hamburgers, that's always a great event put by kind of our first responders in the community. And they have lots of booths, especially for kids. If the kids want to see a fire engine, or they want to, I'm trying to think of all the booths my kids have gone to. There was one once where you learned how to call 911. Sometimes they'll bring like a medvac helicopter, or we're going to try to have some of the police dogs there. We'll see. We're kind of down to one, and I know Wells is doing it in their community tonight, so I don't know if our police dog will be able to be there tonight, but a lot of times they bring that. We're talking fire, EMT services, police services, sheriff's office, everything. And so it's a great event for your family to come down, be with the community. They serve a lot of food, all free. They usually have some entertainment, some music, and yeah, it's kind of an awesome event for the community. So it's at 5, I think I said, when it starts, when you can come on down and start getting food.
Yep, they usually kind of wrap things up about 8. I think you're right.
Yeah,
5 to 8 or so.
Yeah,
start
and it
to wind
usually
down.
kind of slows down. But come on down, bring your family down for dinner.
What a great night! It's a tradition, and it was a tradition for our family until now. She's often caught. Well, she's graduated.
She's graduated. Yeah,
she's like moved away, and so yeah. But it's one of those traditions in a lot of families locally. They've been doing National Night Out for at least 20 years.
For a long time, yes. Yeah. And it's not just here. It's
right.
It's across the nation. They designate I think it's the first Tuesday of August is what they designate, and our local people have done an amazing job of putting it together every single year.
Mm-hmm. It's a great way, as Councilwoman Simons describes, to build community. You can ask questions. There are usually nonprofits, whether it's Committee Against Domestic Violence or other organizations
Absolutely, yes.
that are huge help and collaborators. It's an opportunity to find out about volunteers and what you might do to make a difference too. So just bring the kids and have a great night, and they can run and play and get stickers and hats and all kinds of plastic toys.
All kinds of stuff that you get to
Yes.
bring home in your car. It's true. Yeah, that we have to then clean out the car later, but it is fun for kids.
Yes.
And I know that they, at some events, they've had the little trailer where kids can practice, how do I get out if there's a fire? You get down low, you feel the doorknob, all these things. It sparked a lot of conversations in our family. We can come home and say, okay, well, what do we do?
Yeah.
Like, if this were to happen, what's the best thing to do? What can we do, and how can we practice that? So it's a good event.
Yep. National Night Out is tonight in the main city park, so don't miss out on that chance. And that kind of gets us, I know there's micro slurry chip sealing going on and will be throughout this entire month.
There is, yep, and 'tis the season. That's what we do in summer, and so we all want our roads to be nice, but we also don't want to be bothered by people fixing the roads. It's like a catch-22. So when you see these nice folks out there, just be aware of them, drive slowly, reroute, be happy. We're trying to make our roads nice, and I know it's sometimes an inconvenience if you have to take a little detour or if things go a little slow on your way to work or wherever you're going, but that is happening. It's when it's nice enough, they are out there. And so just be aware of them and the hard work that they're doing. I will also say that we ratified an application for some grants that the Nevada Department of Conservation and Natural Resources are putting out. And it's along with the Office of Financial Assistance from the state, but they opened a grant application to fund $100 million of statewide qualifying projects. And so we went ahead, the staff submitted applications for these following projects that I'll list, and we just barely happened, so we don't know if we'll get any of them, but just so you know, these are projects that we're ready to do. It's just the funding. So if we were to get funding from this grant, then we could go ahead and start. We have been talking about the Cattle Drive water tank and tank line extension, which is a $4.5 million project. The Elko Hills water tank and tank line, which is a $5 million project. The Errecart water line extension, a $15 million project. And the North 5th Street booster station tank and water line extension, which is about $6 million. And so these are just projects that we have to save up for and do when we can, unless we get, a big chunk of money from some grant or some other reason. And so we went ahead and applied for all those. We don't know if we'll get none. We don't know if we'll get a little bit. We have no idea, but hopefully we can see something come to our community. Some of those dollars come to us.
That would be fantastic. I mean, $100 million it seems like a lot of money, but if they can dribble it out through rural communities, especially, because sometimes if these urban centers take huge allocations, it's just
true.
Because look at every single one of these affords growth and development. And Dale Johnson, thanks to him and his staff, I mean, they honed in on this. And as you said, these are shovel-ready projects.
Yeah, they've done a great job of getting things, just taking these little steps so that whenever we get the money, we can go ahead and start digging. And this is another thing where it's just everything is so expensive. Anything to build is so expensive. And so this is not money that the city just has sitting around in a rainy day fund. We do keep a rainy day fund, and we do have a little bit of a buffer. That's been a policy of the city for a long time, but we don't have this kind of money just sitting around to throw at these projects. And so we're hoping that we hear back. Some of these, sometimes it, again, takes a while before we hear back anything, but we're hoping that we can get some of these dollars and maybe at least get one of these projects kind of started and rolling.
It was great to see that on the agenda. Nevada Department of Conservation and Natural Resources and Office of Financial Assistance. So keep good thoughts there. It was also nice, Mandy, to hear and see the confidence of the elected officials in our appointed officials in their job performance. So that was really a nice part of the meeting.
Yeah, for those of you that maybe don't know how this works, the city has several kind of appointed positions. They're not elected, they're hired, but they kind of report directly to the city council. So let's see if I can remember. We have the city manager, of course. Oh, look at you. Thank you.
I gave her the list.
The city manager, who is Jan Baum, and she just started at the beginning of this year, doing a great job. Then we have Ty Troughton, who is our police chief, and he's been there several years. James Johnston is our new fire chief, very, very new. And then Kelly Wooldridge is our city clerk, and she's been there for several years as well. And so it depends. Some of them are once every year, and some are once every other year. We get sent the forms, and we sit down and we kind of rate them, and we can write comments. Hey, we love that you do this, or we'd really like to see this. We can acknowledge their achievements, and we kind of rate them, and then they put that all together, and it's public knowledge. So at the city council, they put their scores right up on the screen, and all of our elected officials scored very, very high, super competent. I know just for me personally, the only time that I rated anything even remotely kind of mid was just because they're new and maybe I haven't had a chance to see that particular category exercised yet. But everything that I've seen is awesome. They all work incredibly hard. They do their very best. And so, and I know the county does this too, and different communities at different times might have elected officials who have much different marks. But for the past several years, we've really had high marks for our city officials. We're grateful, or our city appointed officials, we're grateful for what they do and all the hard work that they give. And it was nice to be able to publicly say, hey, you're awesome. You're doing great. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, it's a great balance, Mandy. And as you said, your marks are genuine, the concern and the care that you put in, because city officials, elected officials, do the hiring of these appointed officials. And so it's a balance.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And it's all part of our checks and balance system, right? Like the people elect us, but we appoint them and they hire the rest of our staff. And so it's just part of a way to keep everybody trying to do what they think is right and to work hard and try to help our city.
And it's great. The city in particular is nonpartisan, because I think that we've seen it across the country. When we start getting partisan politics, it really tears at the heart of communities and makes it hard we're just distributing public resources, Mandy. We're trying to fix streets and provide water and sewer and emergency service.
And there's some elected positions that you can see why they're partisan. But as for the city council, we're not partisan, and it really is just trying to take care of your safety and trying to make sure that the resources are going to good places and that we've got good people who can help the citizens. And so very few things ever come across our table that kind of seem partisan or kind of seem to be divided down partisan lines. Most often it's something that we're all just trying to figure out the best way to go about it.
Mandy Simons is our vice mayor and our Elko City Councilwoman and our local elected representative on the governing board. Anything else that jumps out on either this most recent agenda or something that's upcoming? Or
no, just that we're going to keep, the mayor has asked that the Elko Inn be on every agenda. So next week we'll continue to get an update. And some weeks there's not much to update us on, and some weeks there are. So we'll continue on that. And we... every once in a while get an update on, the Boys and Girls Club projects that has brought so much attention to our meetings, the recreation center that they're going to be building. And so we haven't been updated in a couple weeks, so I would suspect that sometime soon we will get an update on that. And we just want to tell everybody to be safe in the heat. It's supposed to be a little bit better today and tomorrow, but be safe in that heat and enjoy your summer.
Definitely, Mandy. Thank you. I would let you go, but I've got 5 more minutes.
No, what should we say? What?
Well, let's see.
Surely there's something awesome. You know what? I know something that I can talk about. So the city, I think a lot of cities are like this. We have kind of volunteer committees, and one of them is the planning commission. And so we just, their members have to be reappointed every few years. And I know that we just barely reappointed Jeff Dolling and Mercedes Mendive because their terms expired and they wanted to do that again. And they meet once a month and their terms are for 4 years. But different committees differ on that. So there's also a Parks and Rec committee, which I believe has an opening coming up this next month or I believe actually in August. I guess it's this month now. And there's other committees. I know that they are trying to get restarted, kind of maybe a golf committee that we had at one time. But because of COVID, a lot of these committees, all the terms expired. So we've had to kind of start new. There used to be an airport committee, which they might get restarted. But if you are interested in seeing how to get involved, call down to City Hall, say, hey, tell me your different organizations. We have an art and culture committee, which meets, it'll meet tomorrow night, the first Wednesday of each month, and they do awesome, amazing projects. The booths downtown that you've seen were one of their projects, all the murals. That's something that they really participated in. So if you are looking for a way to get involved, where you meet once a month, anywhere from once a month to once a quarter, go online, do a little research, find out which committee, and it will tell you who to reach out to say, hey, I'd like to just send in my name, maybe send in a little statement. Can you put it in your file so the next time you have an opening, you can let me know. It's a great way to get involved that doesn't take tons of commitment. But at the same time, it's so nice when you're on the city council because a lot of time these committees have vetted things. They've worked out the kinks so that by the time it gets to you, it's much more polished, more to the point, and you can pass it easier. And so if that's something anybody's been wondering, how can I get involved? How can I make a difference? Those are great, great opportunities.
And you have so many nice people that you can ask about. And you mentioned Kelly Woldridge. She's a great resource. Our city planner, Kathy Laughlin.
Yeah, and they're about two of the nicest ladies you'll ever meet. They would love to tell you what they know. And, even if you just call down to the city. Whoever answers,
Kim Wilkinson. She's amazing,
and she could tell you what she knows. She could patch you through to the right person. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of different ways to get involved. You don't have to run for office, which is, as you can imagine, it's not really fun. I mean, maybe some people enjoy it.
And you're a political science
right.
major. You have a degree.
I don't mind. I don't mind working on other people's campaigns, but I don't find running my own very enjoyable.
Well, your kids are almost old enough; they can help you with it, right?
Right. Well, they've been our little campaign slaves from the beginning. So yes. I think they're. In fact, I don't know if I've ever told this story before, but we had a friend who needed a job, and my kids were very concerned. This was when they were little. They were very, very concerned. And they said, Mom, I'd really like to help. Can we go put some signs out for them? And that's when we had to explain that most people don't actually get their jobs by running. There's this thing, there's a thing called application and a resume and job interviews. And this is not normal. So that's all they do for a very long. But now they're old enough to start trying to get their own.
That's right.
Jobs, so
well, yeah, jobs and sitting on committees and helping influence their schools and if you're thinking I would never want to run a campaign, you and most people are probably in that boat. We get it, and so these committees are awesome ways to try to get involved. I know the Elko County Library, they're kind of kickstarting Friends of the Library again. And so they have a library committee as well, of which Lee Gurr and Tammy Craycraft Dickinson head that up as chair and vice chair. And
a lot of nonprofits. The county has different committees that you can be appointed to. So if you want to get involved, there's lots of ways. And you can find something that's kind of up your alley. You know?
Yeah. It really piques your interest, and you can. And the other thing is you can contribute so much that way by depending on your level of skill or experience or just your passion or dedication for something.
And you get to be involved and you get to understand things more and find out what's going on. One of my older kids asked me the other day, so when I go to college, how am I supposed to know what's going on in the community? Because you won't be, you won't be there to come home and tell me what's going on. Aww. And so we talked about all the ways that they can find out what's going on in the community and ways that they might be able to be involved. And so this is a great way for you to understand more of what's going on in your community, and to, just help maintain this amazing atmosphere and culture that we have in Elko.
Well, Mandy, what lucky kids your kids are to have you and Mason as parents. That's so nice.
We should
remind them of that.
We should remind them.
We'll put some signs on the lawn that say, lucky kids
don't
live
forget
here.
It. That's right.
Well, Mandy, as always, we appreciate your time. I know you're going to be back next week, and summer's like that because, you're busy too. We're all busy.
That's great.
Thank you for being on the radio with us.
Of course.
And thank you, listeners, for joining us for another edition of Elko Live today here on KELK.